Right, I think I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Cool. Let's rock and roll. Hey guys, I've got another episode for you. This is part 2 of the conversation that I had with the guys from the J.A.K.D Podcast in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you missed part 1, go back to episode 44 and you can catch up on the first hour of our conversation. And this episode is the second part, the second hour of that conversation. And we ended off the first conversation talking about where I was telling the guys that I want to write a book. And this is how the rest of the conversation went. Anyway.
Oh, dude, I'll tune in big time. And I'll tell you what, man, if you don't do it, I'm going to give you shit for it. And I'm going to message you until you do it. Because I'm all about people just pursuing it, and just getting after it. I have all these crazy ideas for the podcast, and me and Anthony text, and we call each other about it all the time. And I'm like, we're doing it. And I told him, I was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the guy. His name is David Goggins. He was a U.S. Navy SEAL. No. Honestly, man, if you want some motivation, look up David Goggins on YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Dude weighed, I think it was over 300 pounds, and then he wanted to join the Navy SEAL, so he had to lose like 180 pounds in like 2 months, and he did it. Something crazy. It was insane. His story is nuts.
But not even healthy, but he did it.
Yeah. And his whole thing after it, do something about it. And one of the cool things with Anthony is I was telling him, I was like, man, I got all this content. I want to release it all. And even if I release all of it, fuck it. Merry Christmas. Let's make some more. Let's do some more, man. Like, let's just do it. Who cares? What's stopping you,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because the energy that
the only alternative is death.
Yeah, exactly. And I just don't want to live my life with a regret. Like, it's like, I want to do what I want to do.
Yes.
And I want to do it now. Let's just go. And I want to spread that drive to other people because like everyone's got it. They can do it, And it's like, I just want to help spread that, And I know you feel it too, because I hear it in your voice and the thing that you're doing and want to do.
Well, the fact that we're doing this right now is living proof, that we're doing it.
Proof is in the pudding.
Yes. Yeah. And we can, and that's the other thing, brother. Like everyone talks about when I told people I'm starting a podcast. And I really want to get your input on this too. When I went to start a podcast and when we started a podcast, a lot of people tell me, oh, there's a million podcasts. It's oversaturated. Everyone wants to do a podcast. You know what? Fuck you and fuck that, because I don't know another person personally doing a podcast. And guess what? There's more than enough for all of us to go get some. To all of us have viewership.
Oh, yeah.
For us to support each other. We're not against each other. Our podcast, it's all of us together, and like there's more than enough.
We work together. We're not against each other. That's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I have this sort of abundance mentality that there's enough space for all of us. And the more we advertise podcasts, the more people are going to be listening to podcasts. We grow the community. So there's a lot of space for us. It's not like there's a finite listenership for podcasts. The more we advertise podcasts, the more people will be listening to podcasts, the more people, there's more room for us to work. So I think, like for me personally, I look at other podcasts for ideas, not to copy, but just to collaborate with and get ideas from. You guys must check this out. There's a podcast in Australia. It's called the Daily Talk Show.
Daily Talk Show?
The Daily Talk Show. Not the Daily Talk Show. Not the Daily Show. The Daily Show is Trevor Noah, who is South African, by the way. Have you guys watched that?
Yeah. I know.
South Africa's taking over the world of comedy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, right.
No, seriously. In Australia, there's a podcast called the Daily Talk Show, and they were doing a podcast every day, and now under lockdown they're doing a podcast twice a day. So how's that?
See, that's awesome.
That's legend. So you know what? Go check those guys out. They are fucking legend. I've learned a lot from them.
Is this it right here? The top.
That's it. That's it.
All right, perfect.
Yeah. All right, we got
perfect,
it.
man. We got it.
Listen, check it out. Interact with those guys. Tell them I sent you. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, man. Big time.
But you know what the thing is? Like, I've had a video call with them. I've interacted with them. They've given me advice. It's, that's the thing. It's a community of podcasters that are collaborating together to just improve or bring to everyone the content that they're bringing. Because, everyone's bringing different content. The live that I
different value, know? I said each of us are bringing different values.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
other people are going to appreciate, the different content, the different values, differently. It's just awesome.
I totally agree with that. And, people will find, so I much rather have 100 followers that are totally engaged than 1 million followers that are not engaged.
Yep.
I don't know what you guys feel about that.
No, I believe it too, man. It's like you can have 50,000 people on your Instagram, and if 40,000 of them are bots and unengaged, and it doesn't matter. I actually see that on if you want to go to the analytics of like Instagram stuff. I've seen accounts with 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 followers. They post something and they get 30.
Where our heart's at,
I mean, that's a fucking amazing story. I really enjoy that. Thanks so much. So was it your birthday that was last weekend?
Yeah, it was on Monday actually, awesome. Last Monday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, dude.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, fuck.
Oh yeah.
You finished that bottle, you dirty dog. Should we pour you some screwball? Get that glass up there. Let's pour a little.
You got a little left. Yeah, you little weasel.
So I must tell you. So that guy that's rode from South America to Canada, just an interesting story. So I've been engaging with guys that are in the motorcycling community. And one of the groups of guys that ride around Johannesburg is called the Vesper Orders. So they only ride Vesper bikes.
I think Vespers are so cool, by the way.
They totally are.
Old school Vespers, not the new ones, 70s and 60s Vespers. And these guys...
Yeah, some nostalgic.
No joke, these guys are hardcore. Like, you cannot believe. Anyway, so I wanted to have the president of the Vesper Orders, I wanted him on the podcast. Turns out that he's a very, very shy guy. You put a mic in front of him, he starts getting a little bit antsy. But it took me a couple of months to convince this guy to come on the podcast. And I convinced him, okay, let's do it, whatever. And it turned out that this is what I love about doing the podcast, is that, I knew the guy, but I didn't know him personally. We would go for biker breakfasts and we would chat. And so we're trying to organize this podcast. It took me 2 months. And he says to me, okay, let's do it on this day. And I said, listen, dude, I'll come to your house. Not a problem.
Yeah.
You don't have to come to me. No problem. So he said, okay, cool. Then he messaged me during the day and he says, hey, listen, my wife said, why don't you come for dinner? So I said, okay, cool. I'll come a little bit early. We'll come for dinner. So I arrive at his place and he's into 4x4ing. So he's got a Land Rover, all kitted out to do the safari in South Africa. And I get there and his wife has made dinner and there's some people there that I don't even know. And he introduces me. He says, no, these are people from Europe that he met at a bar on the weekend that was staying in an Airbnb. And they're waiting for their vehicle to be shipped from Europe to South Africa. And then they're going to do an overland trip through Southern Africa. And he told them that it was bullshit that they were staying in an Airbnb. They must come and stay at his place. So, okay, cool.
Beautiful.
So we sat around the table and we had dinner and we had a couple of beers. And then only after that did we sit down and do the podcast. But by then we had a couple of beers, we were nice and relaxed. Yeah. And I have this conversation with, the guy's name is Gerard. So I have the conversation with Gerard. And afterwards he says to me, dude, that was such a relaxed conversation. He was so amazed at how well the conversation had gone because he didn't feel pressured by the whole thing. It turns out that the kind of feedback that I've got is that I have this ability to make people feel super relaxed. But
they coasted out of those people. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a long story short, but he was then helping this guy that did the cycle ride from South America to Canada. He now wants to do a ride from Cairo to Cape Town and raise money for a charity in I think it's in Botswana or Malawi. I get my facts wrong here. But he then passed on, they wanted to create some promo content to get sponsors for this guy. And Gerard recommended me because this guy that did the ride from Andy, the guy's name is Andy that rode from South America to Canada is very, very shy and doesn't like interviews. And Gerard recommended that I would be the right person to have a conversation with him to create this promo content.
Dude, hell yes.
And that's how it works, man.
Yeah, honestly. I love it. It's
that's
beautiful.
how it goes.
Yeah. It's so fun to get to, you get to have these conversations with people because of the podcast that you would never have otherwise. We was this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we met with this guy who's Dr. Roberts. He wrote the very first textbook of the genetics of the heart. He's a cardiologist.
I saw that.
He was the cardiology consult for NASA for 13 years. Literally has helped started medical schools all across the world. Normally charges like $1,000 a talk or whatever to give a speech. And we got to talk to him.
Yeah.
Because of this platform. And it's just amazing, the things that we're experiencing because of it. And it makes me feel so alive. And it just hear other people's lives and what they've accomplished. It makes me encouraged. I just love it. And I want to share that with other people. I love it.
Yeah, man. And we're going to release probably after this one. I had already pre-recorded an episode with this guy who came to my high school because he was actually a drug addict most of his life. He's turned his life around. He's sober. He's had this wild story of when he used to do just crazy drugs. And it's just you listen to his story and you just cannot believe this guy came out alive on the other side. And I just met him because he wanted to talk about drug addiction at my high school. And I was like, hey man, go for it. And he did. And afterwards I was like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And And so I actually did that for my old one, but we're going to re-release it on our Jax forum. And so, but you just meet these people who have wild, powerful stories, because how many people do you know maybe suffer from mental health, drug addiction, anything? We just did that one with Derek McCormick, man. Derek, he lost, or his wife died from aggressive cancer.
I saw that too.
And how many people have lost someone they can relate to that story? And it's not about me, it's not about Anthony, it's not about Frank. And when you have your podcast, it's not about you, it's about just sharing what you have access to.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when we loop back to this, how many people personally know are running a podcast? Probably not very many, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So and so now you get to be that media piece that's just raw and real and authentic.
An avenue created.
Yeah. That can exchange experiences with people, give people access to someone they would have never met in their life. And the coolest thing about it that you find out is ordinary people have just the most extraordinary stories.
Yeah.
And have done the coolest things,
Yeah. Absolutely. Guys,
you get someone who has some notoriety, right? I need regular people.
I need to go for a piss.
Yeah, go for it, man. We'll talk.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I
love it,
dude. But honestly,
oh yeah, I mean, it's just a beautiful. I mean, like I'm having experiences now where I'm more confided and contained ever in my entire life. Literally
quarantined,
but I feel like more liberated in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because of this,
just because different ideas for the podcast, and one of the funniest things, and we're gonna do it, and I'm gonna say it now because it puts more of a fire into me to do it.
It's stone, baby.
What do we not want to tell people? Would it be a funny surprise? No, it's a good story.
Tease them.
But I was like, how about I'm going to reach out to every mayor in Arizona. Because I'm going to start reaching out to mayors, because how funny would it be? Because if you get one, you can get multiple.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we just had this, like, people would look at the podcast and be like, who's this podcast interviewing the mayor of Peoria, Glendale, Phoenix, Arizona? You know what I mean? Like,
no, the little Stephen. Funny, I was thinking when we hung up, I get so excited when me and I get off the phone.
Yeah.
I just get so giddy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, if we could talk to a mayor, then we could talk to another mayor, then we can talk to a governor. All of a sudden, we got Trump. He's like, oh, I just talked to these cool guys,
And how cool would it be? So, like, we're not even a political podcast. We don't want to talk politics. I think whatever the party system is, whether you're in the UK, South Africa, America, whatever, there's always a false binary. Right? It's always Republican or Democrat. It's always left or right. I don't believe in that binary, because there's always more that can be. We want to be like a political podcast, but it would be funny if we just had like 10 mayors on the podcast. It would just be so funny.
We had a mayor, like, what's the word, like, segment.
Yeah.
Our mayor episode. No, but that's
we're back. We're back.
Yes, Ben is back.
Sure,
we're just talking about the amazing people that we're gonna meet because of this.
I can think clearly.
Like a new man.
You had to bleed your old lizard.
My God, I was crying.
So we were saying Arkansas.
I'll be honest, man. Dude, who goes 3 hours without pissing on a
dude, I don't know how.
Oh, dude, he probably catheterizes himself under the table.
I was just about to say, he's probably got a catheter in.
Yeah, exactly. He's feeling the whole time. That weird dude is so into it. What do they call it? Pegging? He loves it. He pegs himself on his off time, but then on the podcast, it's a catheter.
We need to tag him.
We're tagging him for sure.
We should start that hashtag to trend. Like, does Joe Rogan peg himself?
Is he into pegging? Yeah, I can't knock it because I've never tried it, I guess.
Could be a thrill. It could be fun.
So let's talk about your podcast for a moment. Right.
Talk about our podcast?
Yeah, about your podcast. Why the fuck not?
I feel like he's got, Ben, has he gotten quieter for you?
Yeah, I got a little quiet.
Maybe adjust your volume a little bit. I don't know what's going on. It might be on our end.
I'm all good here, hey?
Let's see.
Fucking full volume, dude.
Okay.
Oh, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Are you good? So let's talk about your podcast for a bit.
Yeah, it was just, I think the internet, for a second, the internet got funny.
So, yeah, I guess let's talk about our podcast and the fact that, I just want to say, to me, I'm just excited because not only are we being able to meet these people that have done great things, but I also am excited to have the stories with the ordinary people where they have these extravagant stories and, people can learn from their walks of life, from their areas of expertise. Of course, we're going to be talking to some big names we already have, but the thing is like, we're all special in our own way. We all have, these specialties that we just, sometimes we're not even aware of it. And that, to me, I'm just so excited to bring out. And that is what J.A.K.D is about.
It is what we're about. And another big thing that I feel like one of our main purposes is that, so the name of our podcast is called Just a Couple Dudes, right? So what are we right here? We are just a couple dudes just
hanging
talking,
out.
Right?
Yeah.
So the whole point is that we can take issues such as mental health, death, depression, suicide. We can take politics, religion. We can talk about this, like podcasting, whatever. Something that might be complex, and we bring it to a layman, bro, dude level. Something that's easy to digest, easy to understand. It was really cool. I had people so far reach out to me over Instagram and ask me how to start a podcast, what is it about, what should they talk about, stuff like that. And I could give them some guidance. And I was like, look, just listen to what we've done, listen to what other people have done. It's not complicated. I think a lot of life really isn't that complex, but we make it complicated. And the cool thing about your podcast, ours, other ones, is that you can take complex issues, bring them down to a very layman, very simple level, and just talk. And you can really only do that in a 1 to 2 hour forum, 3 hours maybe. Ours is about an hour usually, but you need to talk. You need to roll it out. It's got to have, can't do a soundbite. Sound bites are really fun for promos and stuff, but you can't explain something complex in a soundbite. And that's all we're fed. News media, whatever. We just want sound bites. No, I want to talk to you for an hour. I think Joe Rogan actually did say it best. They were talking about who's Dr. Huxtable from Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, right? So Bill Cosby is, he's a monster.
Are we allowed to talk about him?
Bill Cosby. Yeah, people think Bill Cosby. They're like, oh, he was on Jay Leno. He's a cool guy. Well, that's a pre-fed, quick answer, no nonsense. But if Joe Rogan was like, if I had Bill Cosby on for 3 hours, you would all know how much of a creep he is. You can't hide it for an hour. You can't hide it for 3 hours. And so that's what I love about the podcast. I feel like that's what we're doing with our podcast, and I think it has a really bright future. I think yours is the future. Tea Time with the Reaper, Derek McCormick, who we just had on. Absolutely love what I've listened to with him. In fact, you should reach out to him even. He just want to get that message out as much as he can.
Well, the truth is everyone needs it.
Everyone's
going to experience death, and yet none of us are preparing for it, I had a conversation literally last night where, I found out that someone had physical death and they were scared to talk about it. And I was just like, I've now made a recent friend and you need to talk to him. In fact, the world needs to hear your story because the struggles you have experienced, maybe there's just one other person that's going to hear your story and they're going to benefit from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, and that's just the power to help give to people. We can give people a voice. I'm just so excited about it. And especially during this time, while you were gone, I was telling, quarantined and we're trapped. But for some reason, I feel more liberated than ever in my entire life.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting to talk to people all across the world. I'm getting to hear their stories. It's awesome.
Well,
I wouldn't have had the time.
No, you
Go
carry
ahead.
on. No, you carry on.
I was going to say, I just wouldn't have had the time to talk to Derek had it not been for this, to be honest. So I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah, I think having a podcast does give you access to people that you normally wouldn't have access to. I found that, and people are pretty keen to come on. I mean, a lot of the guests that I've had have never been on an interview or a podcast before, but some of them have been on lots of interviews, but they enjoy the podcast format more because it's a lot more relaxed, because I don't come with 10 questions. What I tell people up front is, it's your podcast. You talk about what you want to talk about. It's two people that have the same passions that are talking about the same thing, whether it's motorcycles, whether it's music, whether it's creative stuff, craft, fashion, local music, whatever. So I always tell them it's not an interview and it's your podcast. You talk about whatever you want. So
that's beautiful.
So that's my motto.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say something. I was gonna dial it back a little bit, but I've forgotten. But anyway, I want to tell you. Kudos to your fucking podcast name. Just a couple of dudes. I mean, that is the most fucking awesome title for a podcast. I'm so jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Because that's what we deliver.
No, but I mean,
it's table talk, baby.
Dude. But you know what? That translates so much to South Africa. Because, I mean, everyone is a dude in South Africa. And we're all just a couple of dudes. Fuck, that is so fucking awesome. And it works out that it says jacked, which is fucking
jacked, which is masculine. Oh, dude, I love it.
And that's why I picked the little gorilla, because we got a silverback gorilla. It's J.A.K.D Podcast, but it's just a couple dudes. Like, that's all we are, man. We're just hanging out
all the time. Me and Eric, we're always sending videos of gorillas.
Oh yeah,
gorillas. Like, oh, let's go, boys. Yeah. We're all just a couple dudes.
Dude, I love it. But now listen, the guests that you've had on and the topics that you guys have tackled are pretty. I'm pretty impressed. You guys have spoken about relationships. You've spoken about religion. I mean, pretty. It's pretty woke, if you want to.
Controversial.
No, not controversial.
Yeah.
No.
Woke,
for sure.
Listen, okay, let me explain something to you. I've got two teenage daughters. I've got a daughter who's turning 18, and I've got a daughter who is 16 already. So it is pretty difficult to navigate how to prepare them for the world, because in a way, I believe that's my job, right? So between relationships and sex and religion and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it's like I grew up in a world where it was taboo to talk about that kind of stuff. I grew up in a religious environment. You didn't talk about sex, you didn't swear, whatever, right? So it's taken me a long time to get a perspective on life. And when I hear you guys talking about religion and relationships, I mean, you guys are young guys. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed that you guys are talking about these kind of subjects. And it encourages me. And the way that I deal with my kids is that there is no taboo subject to talk about. Sex, relationships, whatever it is. There is no area that we can't go. And I think I've created an environment for my girls to be able to comfortable to talk about these kind of things. I mean, they tell me stuff that I would never have told my parents when I was a kid. I mean, what do you guys think?
It's beautiful, man. No, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome, because
it's how I want to be as a father. So, I mean, honestly.
Yeah, and if I can just add, I think by not talking about those topics, it creates a safe space that's not actually safe. You know what I mean? Like you need to talk about religion. You need to talk about death. You need to talk about not really politics, but you know what I mean? Like kind of like the political climate that you need to talk about their relationships with people, their romantic relationships with people. Because if you don't, how else will they really know you as a father, as a man, as a person? And that's one thing that, this podcast too is about, we're about good men, strong men, good fathers.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I love that we're talking to you, because I mean, that is a quality of a good father, a good man. What you're doing is awesome. And that's, that's why we're doing it,
Seriously.
So
kudos to you, man. I love it.
Can I tell you what? I mean, a lot of people talk about how do you measure success and that kind of thing. I measure my success by how other people perceive my girls, my daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is testament to the kind of person that I'm at, the values that I've instilled in them. So when I go to a social event and I take my girls with me, and afterwards people say, listen, you've got beautiful girls, they're so well behaved, they're so polite, they're so intuitive, etc., etc. So like for me, that is my measure of success. If anything if I was to die tomorrow, if that's what people are perceiving my girls at, that's my success.
Oh, big time.
Absolutely.
Wear
it proudly too. Wear it on your chest, man. That's awesome. I love that. That's exactly what I want in life. I don't even have kids, and I love them, and I look forward to seeing the people that they will become. And it sounds like that your girls are literally the type of people that I would
My whiskey's finished.
No doubt. I know. More beer then.
Oh yeah. We got more to go. We we're going to do another episode after this.
But if I can just add, just on success, I love that you brought that up, because we've talked about it before. We always talk about it a lot, but specifically on our finances episode, it was like, everyone's taught or told, or there's some fake thing out there that success is like you go to school, you get a good job, you buy a house, you buy a car, you make more money, blah, 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 so on and so forth, right? Success is like, first, the very simple question, are you happy? Are you happy with the way you're living your life? And the other thing is I focus on the intrinsic, not the extrinsic. So meaning my family, my friends, my loved ones, if I'm around those people, I could give two shits about a Corvette, a house, money, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, the number in your bank account.
It's not. The fact that I get to do this podcast, the fact that I get to meet you, ignite something in me that's so much better than any job. I tell you what, they could tell me tomorrow I'm making 15 to 20 more grand a year, and honestly, I would take my family, my friends, the people I have, because I won the lottery in that realm, over money in a job, because jobs will stress you out. Jobs will eat you alive, but a podcast, a thing that you're into, fitness, whatever it is, that can actually give you life. It can give you energy. It makes you feel alive, So when we talk about success, I love that you brought that up about you measure by your daughter's ambitions and goals, because that's how you've had those real conversations with them, and that's beautiful, man. Like, that's really cool. Like, that's the best way to define it.
Yeah.
One other thing.
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to say one other thing that was just so similar, and it was I've had two degrees through university now, and one of them it was the absolute favorite assignment that I ever had. It was you had to write your own eulogy, so you were above your own casket.
Yes.
And you had to write what other people were saying about you. You had to write what your wife said about you, what your kids said about you, what your coworker said about you, what your neighbor said about you, at your own funeral. And what I realized I didn't care how much money. I didn't want them to talk about how much money I made. I wanted them to things that like my father was such a loving father. He had so much drive. He taught me so many things. He was the best coworker. But he always brought a smile, even when it was the worst day. He tried to make other people's days better. And when I had to write my own eulogy, when I had to write about my own death, I was able to think about how I wanted to live my life. And when I hear how you're living with your kids, and it's like, how your kids are growing up and stuff like that, man, it just gives me encouragement to like, this is how I want to be. This is how I want my kids to be. They aren't even here yet on this planet, and it's amazing, man. But anyways, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. Not at all. So what you're talking about is something that, do you know Stephen Covey?
Mm-hmm.
So Stephen Covey is my, when I left school and I was starting working, and they sent us on management courses and whatever. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People was the book to read. Now, Stephen Covey is my hero, right? And he talks about you live to love, to leave a legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he says is you need to write your obituary, like you said, how do you want people to perceive
eulogy?
you? Yeah, your eulogy. How do you want people to perceive you? And I have to admit that I have lived by that for a large part of my life, is that everything that I do is about how do people, not that I'm worried about what people think about me, but how would I want, when I get to my funeral, what I want people to say. I want them to say that Andrew, that's my name, by the way, the bearded Finn.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. He was the loving guy. He was the giving guy. He was the guy that you could depend on when you were in shit and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I drive a modest car, but I'm into motorcycles, so I've got 3 motorcycles. But
still kind of badass.
But I'm like, no, but you know what the thing is? It's like, and this is what I'm trying to tell my kids, is that, you know what, life is about experience. It's about the people that you connect with. It's about the people that you have a relationship with. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that has, I grew up in a small town. I went to school, made solid friends, and I'm still friends with those guys, even though they are living in different countries. Norway, United Kingdom, America, Australia, and I'm still connected with those guys. And those relationships that I created in those days have been long lasting. And it's just I don't even know how to describe what it's like to connect with a friend that I was in school with, because we had true friendship. I mean, look, I've made lots of friends post that, and I've made lots of friends through my motorcycling, a lot of friends through socializing, getting tattoos, traveling around the country, that kind of thing. That's awesome. And I mean, I regard those guys as my good friends. But there's something about creating a relationship with someone, and 20 years down the line, you're still good buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Time. Absolutely. It's the best feeling in the world.
So how old are you guys? I got to ask you, how old are you guys? You turned...
We're both 28.
28?
28 years old.
Both of you?
28.
Fucking youngsters, dude.
Yeah, we are.
Well, dude, I just wanted to make a comment. So I know you're not a religious guy.
How old are you, by the way?
I'll tell you what. You guess my age, I'll drink a drink.
Okay. So how about with this? We get a plus, a minus 2, and a plus 2 buffer. Okay.
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. Fuck you. Okay. All right.
But listen, I've got to warn you.
You got a 16-year-old, and how old's the other kid?
No, I got to warn you before you go there that when I go out, I like to play this game. And I say to the person, if they can guess my age within a buffer, I'll buy them a drink. If they get it wrong, they will buy me a drink. And yeah, and let's just say 90% of the time I win.
Okay. Well, how about this?
Do we each get a guess, or is it a J.A.K.D podcast?
Let's save this drink for when we actually get to. We're gonna hang out.
Full Monty.
A better idea now. We're getting a better idea now. For all those that you can't see, bearded Finn, Andrew over here, no wrinkles, but bald as a cue ball.
Well, I was gonna say we should look at like solid beard. What is the average?
No grays. That's it. That's the killer, dude. No grays.
No grays.
I was just saying, there's no gray in his beard.
Dude, I'm 28 years old and I have like 100, 200 gray hairs. Guess I've lived life a little bit, you know. I call it wisdom hairs, you know.
So,
but hold on, I want to guess. Okay, I get a guess and then Eric gets a guess. How about that? You cool with that, awesome. Bearded Finn?
Awesome.
Okay, I want to say 41.
Next.
See, I was gonna say mine, and I feel like it's wrong, but it's all, and it's not just me trying to be complimentary, but after Anthony said 41, it makes me want to go older because I feel like you're older than I think, but you look younger.
He looks young. If those that you cannot see, Andrew, bearded Finn, he looks young.
So what I'm gonna say is my original guess was gonna be that I think you look like you're 39. But I'm not going to guess 39. So you look 39, but you're actually 44.
Which is the buffer again? 2 years.
It was a 2 year. We're close. Oh, we said 2. Minus 2 and plus 2.
You're wrong.
Oh! How old are you?
I will be turning 48 this year.
48. Damn. Get it, son. I want to look like you when I'm 48.
What's the answer? What's the key, man?
Yeah.
Divorce.
Yeah, dude.
Anthony got a divorce.
I got a divorce, and man, I feel better than ever.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, he got a divorce.
Yeah, I did.
He's that 20-year-old who got married.
Yeah, I got married at 20.
How long were you married for?
About 5.5 years. My little lady got the 7-year itch a little early.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. She kind of had fun with somebody else, you know, for like 18 months. She had a full-on relationship.
Oh, no.
But you know what? Honestly, no, it's okay because you know why? I think about it, you know, every now and then it comes into mind. That was the worst thing I've ever been through. But at the same time, do some weird, like, I don't know, like mental martial arts. I've made it the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I'm glad to hear that.
Like, seriously, I just feel completely liberated by it because I'm like, you know what? I've seen how bad can be. And now every single day, even if it's a normal day, is a great day. And also I'm just, you know, I've seen how bad things can be. And that's not even the worst that things can be, honestly. But I just want to make every day the best it can be because I've seen how bad it can be. I want to experience the best. And I really, truly feel like that. You know, I just feel like I live life to the and every day I'm happy because of it. So when you were talking about divorce and stuff, that's an ugly, ugly, terrible thing. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But at the same time, to those that have gone through these hardships, these risks, those things those pills that you think you can never swallow, you can come out so much stronger. And I want people to know that, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
I want to look. The fact that you went through it and you're 48, I want to look like Andrew.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I know you're not a religious guy, but something we talked about earlier made me think of a Bible verse that I really like. It just says, "Naked as I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart." So it's like you come in the world, naked. You're going out dead and naked, right? So all the money, all the houses, all the cars, all the stuff, like, who cares? What you really want to focus on is like, what memories did you make? How did you impact people? How did you talk to people? How did we treat each other? Like, what kind of legacy were you able to leave? Like with your podcast, our podcast, what are you able to leave your children, your grandchildren? How are you able to enjoy the experience of life versus what kind of shit could you buy,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the philosophy that I live by now is I treat people the way that I would like to be treated. Simple as
Perfect.
That. Mm-hmm. Simple as that. And beyond that, I don't think too much. For me, it's about the advancement of humanity. That's me. What can I do to make other people's lives better, other than just mine? That's it.
It's true. Like I said, we're not in a competition. I think Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you ever heard of Gary V.
Gary
huge
V.
on Instagram.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Has, right? Of course. Gary V. always talks about honey over vinegar.
Yeah.
We're not in competition, man.
Yeah.
He's like, you can either blow up everyone's build around you to be the tallest, or just build the tallest one. Use each other. Like, let's build a community. I'm not in competition with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if anything, you only grow the more you connect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the more we can, you coming on ours, us coming on yours, sharing your stuff, you sharing our stuff, that kind of stuff. Like, that's how you build. Even just a small microcosm to that would be that. So, like, I primarily run the GIF Instagram account, right? Yeah. So I'm Eric. I usually run it, but Frank jumps in, the co-host, and I notice when he comes in and does stuff, I'm like, oh wow, like we're getting we're getting more engagement. I was like, 2 heads, 3 heads are better than one.
Yeah.
Us helping you helping us, the whole podcast community coming together. That is a lot more building that goes on than just if you by yourself are like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna it's all,
Yeah, no, listen, I'm all about collaboration. I don't I like to engage with so I engage with a lot of people around the world from a podcast point of view, friends of mine, friends of friends. I mean, so I've been fortunate enough to travel to Toronto on business a couple of times.
Oh,
and
fun.
Every time that I've been there, I've made new friends. Mm-hmm. And those are friends that I continue to be friends with when I come back to South Africa. And some of them are work colleagues. Some of them are friends of friends. So do you guys know Rodriguez? The music artist Rodriguez? Not? Okay. So there was this guy in the 70s. I'll give you the background story. There was a guy in the 70s.
That's why, you old piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding, man. Come on, man. My parents were just being born then.
So this guy grew up lived in Detroit, right?
Uh-huh.
And he used to make music in the 70s, and he used to play in a smoky bar down in Detroit, and he produced 2 albums, and they didn't do very much in America, but they did a shitload in South Africa and in Australia, and he didn't even know that they were that successful in South Africa. Now, just to put it into perspective, he sold more albums in South Africa than Elvis Presley. And the reason for it was that he was he was like almost like a poet, right? And he was talking about anti-establishment kind of things. And going back to the apartheid conversation, in the 70s, people identified with what he was saying in South Africa. So the story is that someone brought in a cassette tape or whatever into South Africa, and it spread like wildfire in South Africa. And they produced a whole lot of vinyls, and they sold a shitload. But the worst part is he never saw the money, right?
Wow.
So there's a documentary. You must go check it out. It's called Searching for Sugar Man. Write that down.
Searching for Sugar Man?
Searching for Sugar Man. And there was 2 South African guys that were interested to know what happened to Rodriguez. And they were searching for him. And we all thought that he had died. We thought he had committed suicide on stage or whatever. And the long and the short of the story is that they found him. And he was still alive. And he was a construction worker in Detroit. Right?
What?
Oh, my God.
So anyway, so what happened was they brought him out to South Africa in 1998. And they had a concert for him. And there were like fucking thousands of people that went to go watch him. And then he went back to America, back to Detroit, back to nothing, really. Construction work. And then many years later, there was a guy that did documentaries, and he was traveling through South Africa, and he happened to be in Cape Town, and he happened to talk to the guy that found Rodriguez and loved the story and decided to make a documentary about it. So I think it was 2012, they created this documentary called Searching for Sugar Man about Rodriguez. And I happened to be in Toronto in 2012, and Rodriguez was having a concert in Toronto. And I was like, fuck, I need to go to their concert. And all the tickets were sold out. So I was like super bummed. So I was walking around Toronto, and I happened to walk into a vinyl store because I'm into my vinyls. And there they had Rodriguez's album called Fact. So I said, okay, cool. I'll buy the LP. I've got it on CD, and I've got it on Google Play or whatever. And the woman said to me at the till, she said, you do realize that Rodriguez this was on the Monday. She said on Wednesday, Rodriguez is coming to sign the LPs. And I said, oh shit, I'm going to come back. So on Wednesday night, I came back to get my LP signed by Rodriguez. And in the queue were like hundreds of South Africans that were living in Canada. So through that experience, I made all these new friends that were ex-South Africans living in Canada. I made all these new friends. So every time I go back to Canada, I connect with these friends. I go out and I have dinner with them, go and socialize. Some of them are in bands. They take me to their gigs. I mean, it's like you can't believe that, like a guy like Rodriguez, who's like in America, popular in South Africa, and then there's this documentary, and he fucking blows up in the US and Canada, and there you are as a South African, and everyone's like, fuck, but you're the guys that fucking made this guy famous. It is so fucking
right.
And then I meet all these people that were ex-South Africans that are Rodriguez fans that are in Canada, and like 5 years later, I'm still buddies with these people, Well, actually, 8 years later. Sorry, there was a lot.
Lovey. That's life. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Dude, I'm so glad that I've made a friend today. Like, I felt like last week we kind of connected a little bit. I knew a little bit about you, listened to your podcast, over the past 2 weeks. And then last week, you got to see a little bit of us.
He tuned in for like the whole life.
So if you guys haven't heard the J.A.K.D Podcast from Phoenix, Arizona, do yourself a favor and go and look them up on Apple Podcasts or on Podbean. All the links are in my show notes for my video and for my audio. So do yourself a favor and go have a listen to some of the episodes. They've got some really interesting guests and also there's a different perspective from the US. There'll be an episode coming out in the next couple of days. And that, my friends, is the end. I'll catch you next time.